Chapter 8. Burned Sauce. By mid-September, the novelty of chef coats had worn off. The excitement of starting fresh had settled into routine. White jackets stained easily. Aprons carried permanent marks of oil and stock. The kitchens at Chesapeake Culinary Institute no longer gleamed like a brochure. They sweated. They demanded. And in Foundations of French Cuisine, Chef Laurent's expectations sharpened. "Today," he announced one Monday morning, "we begin mother sauces." The words carried weight. Winston had read about them the night before. Béchamel, velouté, espagnole, tomato, hollandaise. Foundations, pillars, the architecture beneath modern cuisine. "These are not optional," Chef Laurent continued. "If you cannot produce a stable sauce, you cannot call yourself trained." The class divided into stations. Winston was assigned to béchamel first. Flour, butter, milk. Simple, controlled. He felt ready. He measured carefully, melted butter slowly, whisked in flour to form the roux. So far, so good. The problem began with the milk. He poured it too quickly. The mixture clumped instantly. He whisked harder. It thickened unevenly. "Low heat," Chef Laurent called from across the room. "Sauce is patience." Winston lowered the flame. The smell shifted subtly. Nutty at first, then darker. He hesitated. Was that normal? The bottom of the pan began to brown faster than it should. He whisked faster. The scent deepened, rich, then sharp. Burning. A thin ribbon of smoke curled upward. He froze. Too late. Chef Laurent appeared beside him, silent as judgment. He reached for the spoon, dipped it into the sauce, lifted it to eye level. The underside of the spoon was streaked with faint brown flecks. "Do you smell that?" Chef Laurent asked calmly. "Yes, chef." "What is it?" Winston swallowed. "Burned milk." Chef Laurent nodded once. "And burned milk is?" "Unacceptable." "Correct." He set the spoon down. "What happened?" "I rushed the milk," Winston admitted. "And I hesitated when I smelled it." Chef Laurent's gaze was steady. "In cooking, hesitation and panic are cousins," he said. "Both ruin control." Winston felt heat rise in his face, not from the stove. Across the room, a few students glanced over. He hated that. Hated the visibility of failure. "Discard it," Chef Laurent instructed. Winston stared at the pot for a second longer than necessary. Discard it. Hours of prep. Gone. He dumped the sauce into the waste container and scrubbed the pan clean. His hands moved slower this time, controlled. He started again. Butter, flour, whisk. Milk, added gradually. Low heat, constant motion. This time he did not look up, did not compare, did not rush. The sauce thickened smoothly, no smoke, no burn. When Chef Laurent returned, he inspected the spoon again. Smooth coating, pale ivory. He nodded once. Acceptable. It wasn't praise, but it was an embarrassment. Still the damage lingered, not in the sauce, in Winston. After class, he sat alone in the locker room longer than usual. The words echoed in his head. Hesitation and panic are cousins. He replayed the moment over and over. The smell, the freeze, the awareness that something was wrong, and his delay in correcting it. It wasn't just about sauce. It felt familiar. Like the weeks after Andre's death, when he had drifted instead of deciding. When he had hesitated instead of acting. He pressed his palms together and exhaled. Did he belong here? He was older than most of them. He had already abandoned one path. Maybe this was another impulse. Another reaction to loss. He texted Claire impulsively. "You ever feel like you don't belong here?" Her reply came quickly. "Every day. That's why we practice." He stared at the screen. Practice. He stood abruptly and walked back into the now empty kitchen lab. A custodian glanced up, but said nothing. Winston approached one of the unused stations. He found butter in the shared fridge, flour, milk. He set the pan on the stove. If hesitation had ruined him earlier, repetition would fix him. Butter melted, flour whisked in, milk slowly. He focused on scent before sight, nutty but not dark, smooth, not clumped. He practiced controlling heat with micro-adjustments. He practiced listening. He made 3 batches before the custodian finally cleared his throat. "We closing," the man said kindly. Winston nodded. He cleaned his station thoroughly before leaving. The next day he returned early. 30 minutes before class. He made béchamel again, then velouté, then attempted hollandaise. The first hollandaise broke instantly. Egg yolk scrambled slightly from heat. He exhaled. Reset, lower temperature, constant whisking. He felt the sauce thicken slowly, emulsifying into pale yellow silk. He tasted it, bright, balanced. He smiled faintly. Over the next week, staying late became routine. Claire joined him sometimes, practicing piping techniques across parchment paper. Mateo worked on reductions, muttering to himself in Spanish as he adjusted seasoning. The kitchen after hours felt different. Less pressure, more intention. Winston began to understand that French technique was not dramatic. It was disciplined, measured heat, consistent motion, attention to detail, muscle memory. One evening, Chef Laurent appeared unexpectedly near closing time. He stood silently at the doorway, observing Winston whisking hollandaise. Winston didn't notice him at first. His wrist moved in steady circles, heat low, eyes on texture, scent monitored. When he finally sensed the presence behind him, he turned sharply. "Chef." Chef Laurent stepped forward. "Why are you here?" "Practice," Winston said simply. "Why?" Winston hesitated. "Because I burned it." Chef Laurent's expression didn't change. "And? I don't want to hesitate again." Silence hung between them. Chef Laurent stepped closer to the pan, dipped a spoon in, examined the coating. He tasted it. A small pause. "Better," he said. Not glowing praise, but something close. "You understand something now," Chef Laurent added. "What's that?" "Talent may get you into the kitchen," he said. "Repetition keeps you there." Winston nodded slowly. After Chef Laurent left, Winston stayed another hour. Not because he felt embarrassed anymore, because he felt invested. At home that night, he stood in his parents' kitchen and made a small batch of béchamel from memory. He poured it over steamed vegetables for dinner. His mother tasted it and tilted her head slightly. "This is not Jamaican," she observed. "No." "It is good," she added. He smiled. For the first time since the burned sauce, he didn't feel doubt creeping at the edges. He felt steadier. The failure hadn't disqualified him. It had clarified something. Belonging wasn't immediate. It was earned. Through repetition, through humility, through heat controlled, not feared. As he washed the whisk and dried it carefully, he flexed his wrist. The motion felt smoother than before. Less forced, muscle memory was forming. And with it, something else. Confidence not rooted in ego, but in discipline. The sauce had burned. He had been embarrassed. He had questioned himself. But he had stayed. And in staying, Winston began to understand that the kitchen did not reject mistakes. It demanded correction. Tomorrow would bring another test, another pan, another opportunity to hesitate or to act. This time he knew which he would choose.